Hi, today we are going to explain the plot of the movie called The Whiskey Bandit, which was released in 2017. Well, let's start with the story. A man finishes the remaining whiskey in a glass before the action. Then he enters a bank alone and immediately points a gun. The man was later identified as Attila Ambrus, a young man from Transylvania, Romania, who had dreams of becoming a professional hockey player. Long story short, Attila was then arrested. He was called into the room of an inspector named Laszlo Bartos. Attila notices that the inside of Laszlo's room is full of documents and several rolls of computer cables. From this, he learns that Laszlo still uses the old method of keeping records of the cases he handles. Laszlo explained that he had gathered information on Attila in connection with 17 bank and post office robberies over the past 6 years. He said that this arrest would be his last. Attila then corrected that the truth was 26 successful robberies. He was caught on this 27th robbery. Laszlo was stunned to hear this and asked Attila to tell him everything. He did so to complete his investigation. Attila began his story with his bitter childhood. He lived in the house of his grandmother Anna. He only knew his father, while he never knew who his mother was. As a child, Attila was often caught stealing in the church, first wine, then wafer bread. Although he was naughty, Anna still loved Attila. One day, after returning home alone from hockey practice, Attila's grandmother died. He lived with his father, who liked to drink. But his father admitted that he could not take care of him and asked him to live with his uncle. His uncle also gave up and decided to put him in a dormitory, but Attila's stealing habit continued. He was expelled for stealing books, and as a result of his delinquency, he was sent to a children's reformatory for discipline. Inspector Laszlo seemed unimpressed by Attila's sad story, saying that all prisoners had their own sad stories. He was annoyed by Attila's rambling, considering that he only needed the story of the robbery. But Attila continued with his story. As an adult, Attila began military training under the dictatorial leader Nicolae Ceausescu. During shooting practice, Attila's marksmanship was so good that he was assigned to guard the tower of the dormitory's security post. One night, he decided to escape from the dormitory without any of his belongings and took a train to Budapest. To avoid being caught, Attila hung from the bottom of the train during the journey. At the station, he changed into the clothes he had stolen from a passenger's suitcase. With no clear destination in mind, Attila sat on the dock, pondering his next plan. In this new country, he needed proof of citizenship, but to get it, he needed a job. After much deliberation, Attila applied to be a hockey goalie, even though he had only practiced occasionally as a child. At first, he failed to prove himself. But after consulting with the coach, he was transferred to the equipment maintenance department and allowed to join the team. His coach also gave him a temporary place to live, which he did because they were both Transylvanians. Besides working, Attila hung out with his hockey friends at the bar. One night he saw a woman named Kata passed by the bar. Attila was instantly fascinated by her and followed her to the subway station. With a little flirting, Attila asked Kata to get to know him, but she refused. He doesn't give up. He runs to the last station and waits for Kata, who is quite impressed by Attila's efforts. They eventually get to know each other and start dating. Lacking some of the documents needed to change his citizenship, Attila sought help from one of his hockey friends, Zero, who told him he knew someone at the ministry. However, the cost of asking for insider help is not cheap, so Attila asked his other hockey buddy, Zolti, for a loan. After getting the loan, Attila managed to meet Uncle Mickey, the uncle of Zero's girlfriend. Apparently, the money he gave Uncle Mickey was still not enough, but Attila promised to do whatever it takes to pay the rest. Uncle Mickey just laughed at Attila and left, saying that he would help as much as he could. Unfortunately, Uncle Mickey did not keep his promise. After some time, Attila had not been contacted. He tried to call back, but his phone call was not answered. Not being able to reach him, he went to Uncle Mickey's office, but Uncle Mickey's reaction was not good. He kicked Attila out and threatened to deport him if he insisted again. This upset Attila and affected his work and his relationship with Kata. One night, Kata invited him to her house for dinner, and he met Kata's mother and father. Kata's parents seemed to look down on Attila, especially because of his unemployment, so he went home without saying goodbye to Kata. On his way home, he saw a man who seemed to be having a good time at a bar while spending money, which inspired his first robbery. In the morning, he stopped at a post office and began to observe the situation inside. He then went to the market to buy a wig and a gun, dressing well and wearing sunglasses as a disguise. Before committing the crime, Attila always drank whiskey. His first robbery was clumsy and almost unsuccessful due to his unconvincing robber demeanor. However, out of desperation, he managed to take a lot of money from the post office's safe and send the employees into another room. After the stunt, Attila quickly took off all his disguises in the tunnel and went home. All the money he stole was stored in the oven. In the evening, he used some of the money to gamble and drink with his hockey friends. He also paid off his debt to Zolti and deposited the rest of the facilitation money with Uncle Mickey, who gave him his new citizenship certificate, and he is now officially a Hungarian citizen of Budapest. Attila also bought a new car, which he immediately used to pick up Kata. This was the first time they met again after having dinner together. Not only that, he also bought a necklace for Kata, thus resuming their relationship. Back at the hockey rink, Attila's friends suspected him of doing something to make a lot of money, but Attila only said that the money was the result of selling bear skins with a 1,000% markup. The money quickly ran out, and Attila planned his next robbery. He entered the second post office he robbed. A patrolling policeman was standing guard across the street and saw Attila going in and out of the post office. There was a fierce chase, but Attila managed to escape. From then on, he began robbing bank after bank for fun. His actions were caught and reported by the media all over the country, but he was never caught. At the hockey rink, the coach introduced Attila to his son, Jeza Boda. Later, the two became close enough to conspire to rob a bank together. Due to a TV news broadcast in a bar, his robbery was nicknamed the Whiskey Villain because the place of the robbery always smelled of whiskey alcohol. On who knows how many robberies, Attila crossed paths with a police team that was about to secure the bank he had just robbed, but he escaped. He hid on the roof of the building opposite the bank to observe the situation. News of his robbery had spread in the newspapers, including a sketch of the robber. Attila just laughed at the sketch, which didn't resemble him at all. Some newspapers even considered him a celebrity, a hero, even Robin Hood. Meanwhile, his relationship with Kata was going well, but Kata still didn't know what Attila had done. In his first robbery with Geza, they chose a bigger bank, and while Attila broke into the vault and collected the money, Geza intimidated the security guards. The robbery was successful, and afterwards they spent some of the money on a party. From then on, the two planned new robberies together. In the next robbery, Attila was surprised by witnesses outside the bank building. And after failing to threaten a bank manager, he left with a small amount of money. Outside, several witnesses were waiting to catch them, and in a panic, Attila fired at the sidewalk and ran away. Then Attila and Geza split up to evade the pursuers. In the end, the police also came after Attila, who fled in a stolen car. They were almost caught, but managed to escape in their own way. That night, Kata came to Attila's apartment. She was surprised to see many wounds on her boyfriend's back and suspected something. But she didn't want to complicate things, so she decided to play dumb and help Attila hide the stolen money and weapons. During the next interrogation in Laszlo's room, Attila was asked to explain several accusations, one of which was the charge of attempted murder. Although he didn't think he had killed anyone in the act, Laszlo said he had shot the victim in the leg. Attila thought the charge was far-fetched and accused Laszlo of setting him up to admit it, since he was sure he had never hurt anyone during the 27 robberies he had committed. Before he was finally captured, Attila met Geza. After almost getting caught in the previous robbery, he did not expect to meet Geza again and planned the next robbery. However, before the next robbery, Attila made an agreement with Geza. He asked Geza not to admit anything for 3 hours if one of them was caught. 3 hours was enough time to flee to another country. At the appointed time, as usual, they divided the tasks. Attila quickly collected the money in the safe, and soon the police arrived. They were also restricted by the automatic doors of the bank. Not waiting long, Attila immediately shot the glass of the bank. They finally escaped by taxi. On the way, it turned out that there was an inspection. They hurried to escape through the subway station and split up. Geza was caught first, while Attila managed to get back to his apartment, where he hurriedly packed the necessary clothes and took his dog with him. Meanwhile, in the interrogation room, Geza confronts Inspector Laszlo, who suspects him of being the whiskey criminals. Laszlo knows that he's working with them, but he refuses to reveal the truth as he promised Attila. Laszlo then tells his partner to call another cop who is willing to beat him into confessing. Unexpectedly, Geza asked for the time. Laszlo immediately understood Geza's game. He instructed his partner to set the clock forward 1 hour and take Geza to another room, and he deliberately turned off the lights in the interrogation room so that Geza wouldn't know how much time had passed. They left Geza for 15 minutes, then moved him to another room so he could smoke. As Laszlo expected, Geza kept asking for the time, not knowing that Laszlo had set the wall clock in the room 1 hour ahead. Geza believed that 3 hours had passed. Meanwhile, Attila was at the border crossing, and as expected, there was an identity check. Attila handed over his passport for inspection. Apparently, the police recognized him. He was told to get into another vehicle and taken to the office. The police asked him to hand over his weapons, and Attila handed over 2 pistols from his shirt pocket. He was then taken to the police station, where Laszlo had outwitted Geza and was waiting for him. The news of Attila and Geza's arrest had already spread. The hockey team, including Geza's father, who was his coach, watched the news at the rink. Kata also heard it on the radio in the car. She visited Attila the next day and confessed that she had spent the money Attila had asked her to hide. Attila needed the money to hire a lawyer, but Kata didn't care and broke off her relationship with Attila. Laszlo, who was also watching during Kata's visit, urged him to admit that Kata knew about his actions. However, Attila chose not to discuss it, only insisting that he had not killed anyone during any of his raids. Attila was returned to his cell. At night, Attila tried to escape. He tore the sheets in his cell into several pieces and tied them together to form a long rope. The next day, when he had to face Laszlo again, he used the rope to climb over the fence and escape. He managed to climb up a pipe in another building, into one of the empty rooms, and used the rope to climb out. He then escaped across the bridge. Laszlo, who was waiting in his office, realized something was wrong when the security alarm went off, and he noticed that a reel of computer cables was missing from his office. It turned out that Attila had used the reel in his bedsheets rope. News of Attila's escape spread quickly, with the media calling the incident a dark Saturday for the police. More than 100 people were assigned to search for him, and several officers were fired for failing to maintain prison security. Meanwhile, police were also deployed to guard the entrance to Budapest, as well as a helicopter. In the end, Attila, aka the Whiskey Villain, was arrested in the Zugló district, and the police who had taken the trouble to chase him were of course happy about their success. Attila's robbery was called the biggest bank robbery in Hungarian history by the mass media. He was sentenced to 17 years in prison for robbing 30 banks, but served only 12 years before being released on January 31st, 2012. Attila now lives his life as a traitor,